So let's pull up the inbound and outbound wind flow and see if we can find where the possible tornado is located as this feature is working its way to the east at 45 miles per hour. It is moving very quickly, according to the Weather Service office, and you can see extremely high wind already impacting parts of Saraland, already impacting parts of Satsuma. And as far as the velocity display, let's switch this over to storm relative velocity and see if we can find where the couplet is located. So it looks like the couplet is right here as of 3:19, where you see this bright shade of red right there around Kushla, and then that feature started veering its way more to the north and east, and now it's over Saraland. So that would put it right over near Saraland High School. That would put it right over near exit 13 off the interstate. And that's what we're going to be watching and monitoring over the next several minutes is a possible tornado that would be around I-65 at Saraland. That is exit 13. This is a storm system that has already given a lot of damage and a lot of grief to parts of Mobile County. And we're just getting a new sweep scan, and now that feature is shifting so fast. It looks like now it's moving toward the north end of Saraland, up toward parts of Celeste Road and near Satsuma. So between exits 15 and 19 would be the current location of the possible tornado threat. And this is all part of this line that's moving from west to east. And this is only the first of two lines, two severe weather threats we're going to be dealing with across the Gulf Coast today. Once this line works its way through, then we're going to get a bit of a break for several hours, and then we're going to get round two that begins at mid-morning and goes until midday. So this first round is pushing its way through right now, and it's moving fast. This first round is almost out of Mobile County and into Baldwin County and continuing to wreak havoc as it's done so all morning long. In fact, you just saw the new flash. Let's pull this up. The tornado warning polygon has just been reshaped. It now includes Saraland, Satsuma, Criolla, almost the same spots, except locations west of Saraland have been dropped from the warning because the system is moving to the north and east so quickly. Moving to the east at roughly 45 miles per hour. And we'll pull it back up on the radar. And you can see the entire line is stretching from Dauphin Island to the Alabama port, to Theodore, Irvington, West Mobile, the 1065 junction, even into downtown Mobile. The tornado threat right now, though, pretty much only in play for Saraland and Satsuma, and then going to be crossing over the Dolly Parton Bridge into parts of North Baldwin County between Stockton and between Stapleton. So as far as where the tornado threat is right now, the possible tornado looks like it would be right over Satsuma and shifting its way to the north and to the east toward Stockton, and it's moving quickly at roughly 45 miles per hour. You can see how bright the colors got right over to the east of Sims. See how the red color started glowing right there north of Magnolia Grove. That was at 3:16, so that was 14 minutes ago. That is when the tornado threat began, and then as we see this thing working its way to the north and east, you can see it moved right over parts of Saraland High School, and then we'll follow it through time, and now it's sitting right over parts of Satsuma. So based on its current movement at 45 miles per hour, let's pull up a storm track on this and veer this off to the north and east at 45 miles an hour. That means it would be over Gravine Island at 340. It would already be to Bay Minette at about 350. And if it held together, it would be in Walnut Hill at 430 and Bluff Springs at 430. Chances are it won't last that long. But that means if you're in Bay Minette, you have less than 20 minutes to get into your safe place. And where you need to go is the lowest level of your home, away from doors and away from windows, preferably a first floor bathroom. The Weather Service just said that the circulation that sparked off this warning is weakening. They're considering canceling the tornado warning. They have not done so yet. They want to hold off on that and wait for a few more sweep scans to go through, but they are going to keep the warning active for now, but they are noticing that the system is weakening. So that's a sign of good news. And this is the entire line, because I want you to get a good look at this thing. This whole thing is marching its way from the west to the east, producing massive amounts of lightning and high wind. But it was shortly after 2 a.m. that we had potential damage hit downtown Mobile. So since this circulation's weakening, what I'm going to do is on the radar, we're going to go back in time about an hour and a half, and let's go through and take a good look at this. So let's go back to right about here. So this is 2:40 in the morning. And if there was damage, it would have come from this right here. It would have been from that particular storm as it lifted its way to the north and to the east. And that's what caused potential damage to a Dollar General, I believe. It's a Dollar General had damage to it at Broad in Virginia. Multiple trees down in the area. So you have a storm cell that basically formed ahead of the main line. At 2:40 in the morning, the main line was still well into parts of Mississippi. But this storm cell formed ahead of it, and that's the one that caused the damage. And let me pull up the velocity couplet, and let's take that back in time too. Let's take that back in time about 3 hours. And let's see, right here. Wow, look at this. Let's zoom in a little tighter. Right about there. You see how the color got really bright, how the red right there is a little brighter. Let me see if I can highlight it right there. That would have been possible rotation that could have caused that damage, as that would have rolled right over downtown Mobile. So that's very possible. And we have a news crew that's on the way there as we speak. And will be giving us updates throughout the morning. So this is 2:58 in the morning. The tornado would have been right there around Oakley. And then let's go forward a little more. About 3 in the morning on the dot, it would have been right over downtown Mobile. And then right there at 3:05, the tornado would have been right there just to the north and east of downtown Mobile, and then it would have just simply fizzled out. So that is something that and that was all ahead of the main line. That was at about 2:40 in the morning. So we had a storm cell that formed ahead of the main line of storms that has caused potential damage for downtown Mobile. The main line is pushing its way through as we speak, producing heavy rain, lightning, and shifting into Baldwin County. As mentioned, this is the first of 2 rounds of severe weather. We have another one that's coming starting at mid-morning. Once this line passes over you, so for example, if you're in our Mississippi counties, or let's say you're in West Mobile, your severe threat isn't done for the day, but it's done for the next few hours. You'll have a bit of a break until we get to about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then the next round will begin and should end at roughly midday. So this is the first of 2 rounds of severe weather, and we're going to continue to follow the possible tornado threat that's in Saraland, but is weakening. It's actually not in Saraland right now. It's now over Satsuma, but the circulation center is really beginning to back off, which is good news. In fact, we're having a tough time finding even a potential couplet on this, which is the sign of rotation that you look for when tracking a possible tornado. So the possible tornado for now looks like it would be right there. Let me point it with the pointer right here. See this little shade of green? That would be the possible tornado if one is still active, and that would be just over the county line, right into Baldwin County off the Dolly Parton Bridge. So technically that would be over water. The Weather Service said they are not going to extend the tornado warning any farther. They're canceling it. Okay, so this tornado warning is now canceled, and they've shifted it to a severe thunderstorm warning. So now we have a severe thunderstorm warning for Baldwin County, and that is going to be in play till 4:15 this morning. And want to stay with this a little while longer, because I want you to be able to see again one thing that we're going to be talking a lot about during the morning news, and that's going to be the potential damage that happened in downtown Mobile at about 2:45 this morning. So that's something that is extremely hazardous and something that is very troubling. Right now I'm sending a severe weather alert out, and let's pull this up again on the radar. So here's the radar. This is the current look of the rain and storms that's pushing its way through. So the nastiest part of the storms are out of West Mobile. So if you're in West Mobile, you're fine right now. Your severe threat is done. And now it's shifting more over toward the Mobile Bay, about to push over into parts of Baldwin County, Daphne, Fairhope, Point Clear. And of course, you've also got nasty storms moving into Spanish Fort, Cloverleaf Landing, Bay Minette. The tornado threat for now, non-existent. But once we get that first line through, we have to wait and be patient for line number 2 to start to work its way through, which is going to happen later this morning. But what I want to do is I want to go back in time to 3 in the morning. So here's 2:45. At 2:45, look at where the storms were. Okay, the main line was in Mississippi. But see how there was this one storm cell that formed ahead of it, right over downtown Mobile. And that one is what sparked off this potential damage at Broad Street and Virginia Street to a Dollar General, which we're going to be hearing a lot more about throughout the course of the morning. As far as where the tornado would have been at that point, it looks like it would have been roughly, let's see if I can put right there. Okay, let me see if I can, all right, right here. So at 2:57, the tornado would have been right there. See that little shade of red? That would have been the tornado. And sure enough, there's Virginia Street and Broad Street's nearby. So the tornado, and see there's Broad, there's Virginia, that would have been your tornado. So it looks like it happened at about 2:57, 2:58 in the morning. And that's what we're going to be covering a lot on this morning, was the damage that storm produced. It looks like it was brief, short-lived, but enough to really wreak havoc across that section of downtown Mobile. So if you're just joining us, we're on the air because we have severe thunderstorm warnings. We've seen numerous tornado warnings going off so far this morning, and the severe thunderstorm warning is in play until 4:15. And as far as where the line is, you can see this is a 3-hour loop. You can see the rain and storms are all shifting their way from the west to the east. If we can, let's go back and take the radar full. Let's take it full screen, and you can see that the storms are moving to the east at about 40 miles per hour. The northern part of the viewing area, up along US 84, has not seen any active warnings. The line of storms is weaker than it is in the southern part of the county. This line is going to be shifting its way out within, I would say, the next 90 minutes. It's going to be out. Now, once it's out, we're not done with the severe weather threat, because this is only the first of 2 rounds that's coming through. The second round, we temporarily lost power, but that's okay. Our generator is going to kick in. There it is. So we're good. The second round, we'll have a bit of a break for several hours, and then the second round of storms fires off at about 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's what we'll have to be monitoring very close, is that we can't let our guard down when this first line of storms passes through. So make sure, if you have not already, download the Fox 10 weather app, because if any new warnings go off, if there's any changes to the Fox 10 Futurecast, you'll be aware of it. And the quickest way to grab it and get it on your device is by scanning that QR code that is right there on your screen. So we'll take another tight look at these storms. Thankfully, the severe threat for now is exiting Mobile County, but is shifting into Baldwin County. Spanish Fort, Daphne, Fairhope, Point Clear, Barnwell, Gulf Shores, that line of storms is veering its way eastward towards you, producing gusty straight line winds, heavy rain, and lightning. As of now, there is no tornado watch, but we have seen tornado threats firing off so far this morning, one of which produced damage just before 3 a.m. in downtown Mobile. At approximately 2:57 is when we had that damage take place at Broad and Virginia. Horrible situation that we have our news crews investigating as we speak. So we're going to stay with this a little while longer to see if a new warning is going off, because the Weather Service said that they're watching to see circulation over Mobile Bay heading toward Daphne. They're going to see if the circulation tightens up and see if whether or not they're going to fire off a new tornado warning. So we're going to stay with this and follow it over the next several minutes and see what happens. But you can see for yourself that that entire line is nasty, and the wind threat with it is nasty. The lightning, the heavy rain has been brutal so far. See all the communities impacted from this right there at the bottom of your screen. And once we get this first line through, then we have to wait several hours before line number 2 shows up. I'm going to pull up the Fox 10 Futurecast, because if you missed this, I want you to get a good look at the latest timing. So Here's 6 a.m. 6 a.m., look at that. Things are quiet, but the severe threat won't be done, because if we go forward to about 8, notice right there, we get the next line of storms to push through. That's going to veer its way to the south and east. That's 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 a.m., noon, 1, and by 1 o'clock, the severe threat's done. The sunshine comes back out. But there is going to be a second line that we have to be on standby for in case we end up dealing with more severe weather, which is something we don't want to see. But as far as the watch warning map, Weather Service has not issued any new warnings. They still have the severe thunderstorm warning up until 4:15 because of straight line winds, heavy rain, and lightning. That's all working its way to the east quickly. And the maximum sustained winds within that line are over 60 miles an hour. Hail threat significant. And unfortunately, we have seen a few tornadoes, one of which before 3 in the morning caused damage in parts of downtown Mobile at Broad and Virginia Street. And believe it or not, it was not even from this main line that's pushing through. It was from one storm cell that formed ahead of the main line. And look at that. New tornado warning just issued. This includes the eastern shore. So let's ramp this back up and see what we got. So, Daphne, you are under the gun as of right now. A tornado possibly moving to the northeast at 55 miles per hour. This warning includes, let's go back to the watch warning map. Daphne, it includes Montrose, Bayfront Park, Malbus. It includes Loxley. It includes Rosenton. It includes Gateswood. So that section of Baldwin County is now under a tornado warning. The western end of Spanish Fort by 225 is not in the warning. Neither is Fairhope. Neither is Point Clear, Foley, Robertsdale. None of you are in the warning. But Daphne, all the way up to Gateswood, is in a possible tornado threat. And, oh, that's a pretty tight couplet. Look at that right there. I'm going to circle this. So you can get a good look at it right there. That's your possible tornado, and that is working its way to the north and east at 55 miles per hour. We just got a new sweep scan, and it looks like that threat is even more significant. It's coming right over Bayfront Park, and that's going to be right over Bay Bluff Lane. So Eastern Shore, Daphne, get in shelter. Where is shelter? That is the lowest level of your home. That's away from doors and away from windows. That is a very ugly looking couplet that's working its way northeast at 55 miles per hour. So Daphne, you got to get in shelter now. Belforest, you're going to be next. So this entire part of the Eastern Shore, north of Montrose, and right over Daphne and just south of Bayfront Park. Here's Bayfront Park, here's Montrose, there's Daphne, and there's your possible tornado. That's going to be working northeast, crossing State Highway 181 just south of Malbus. So just south of the Eastern Shore Center is where that tornado is going to be working its way toward. It's going to be moving in a hurry. And since it's moving at 55 miles per hour, you can almost assume when the next sweep scan comes through off the radar, it won't be here. It will likely be here, which means Daphne is getting it as we speak. And that's our camera in Daphne. That is on the roof of the Hampton Inn, and that is just north of where that possible tornado is located. And look at how the camera is shaking violently from the straight line winds. But that camera, the camera placement is just north of where that tornado is. So let's readjust the map a bit. I'm going to highlight that's the possible tornado. And the camera is located right at the end of the bayway. So the camera is just north of the possible tornado, and you look at how nasty it looks from the camera vantage point, and that's not even where the tornado is. The tornado is just south of that, and you can already see how bad the wind is just north of where the tornado threat is because of where the camera location is. That is a horrific looking situation with tremendous amounts of rain, wind, and lightning. Tornado warning for Daphne. Get in shelter now. Get in the lowest level of your home away from doors and windows, preferably a first floor bathroom. That's the best place to be. Mobile homes are the worst place to be. Hopefully a lot of you did not stay in those overnight because of the severe weather potential for this morning. If you're in an apartment complex, the first floor is the best place to be. That's going to be continuing to track at 55 miles an hour to the north and east. The camera that you're seeing there on the right-hand side of your screen, that is located on the roof of the Hampton Inn, which is right by the Bayway. So that's just to the north of where this possible tornado is, and that's going to continue veering its way to the north and east and cross State Highway 181 just south of the Eastern Shore Center. So let's continue to see what this thing is going to do. I'm going to pull up to see if there's a possible debris signature. That velocity couplet is so strong. I want to see if we've gotten any reports of damage. So let's see. As of now, it's hard to, the placement is a little off from the velocity couplet. So it's very hard to know whether or not that's debris lofted or not. So we'll just go back to the velocity display and just stay with this and see. All right, so we just got a new sweep scan. So the possible tornado is now right here. It would be right here between Daphne and Bell Forest. So let me circle this again. This would be your possible tornado right there between Daphne and Bell Forest. Let's pull up the debris tracker. So there's not a lot. What you look for on this particular graphic is to see bright yellows and oranges in one particular spot, and that's where you'd be able to find debris lofted up from the radar. Yeah, there's definitely bright colors in this range, but can't confirm whether or not that is tornado damage. So we're just going to continue to follow the winds in this case. But we will, believe me, that is a graphic, a map that we will be monitoring very carefully as we go through the next several minutes. So the possible tornado is right over Bell Forest. See that bright color? Bell Forest is where your possible tornado is. That is right along State Highway 181, Daphne. If you're watching in Daphne, the possible tornado has already passed over you. It's already passed over Bayfront Park and Montrose. The possible tornado is right here around Bell Forest. This is 181 that goes up to Malbus. And just south of Malbus at the Eastern Shore Center is where your tornado couplet is located, and it's continuing to veer northeast at 55 miles per hour, and it looks like it might cross US 90. Remember, there's a lot of subdivisions there, a lot of residential neighborhoods. Hopefully a lot of you have woken up, gotten the warnings on your phone, watching our severe weather coverage. We've been on the air since about 2:30 in the morning with little breaks in between as we've seen these warnings kind of come and go. But for a lot of you that are just waking up and kind of following this, I want to point out that this is still just the first round of severe weather. We have 2 rounds that are going to be working their way through. We have one coming through right now, then we'll get a bit of a break. Then we get round 2 starting at mid-morning and lasting to about midday. So this is not going to be a fun weather day at all. But the couplet is starting to weaken. That's good news. The tightness of the velocity display is fading out. That means the odds of a tornado are decreasing. Doesn't mean that the tornado threat's done. It just means based on these sweep scans, we're seeing less circulation. But we're definitely going to stay with this warning because the Weather Service does not want to cancel it at all for now. Let's pull up the main line so you can get a good look at exactly what we're seeing. So there's the line of storms veering its way to the east at roughly 55 miles per hour. And that's stretching from, let's see, this is always a different shot to try to go with. It's going from about US 31 all the way down to parts of Fort Morgan and Gulf Shores as it goes back at 55 miles an hour. The Weather Service just said the circulation is weakening over Bell Forest. That's what we were just talking about. Intense straight line winds, though, are in excess of 80 miles per hour. You see how the camera's shaking violently? That is from the straight line winds of 80 miles per hour taking place right at the end of the Bayway on the Eastern Shore. You feel horrible for those cars that are on the road. You hate to see cars traveling in this type of environment. So everyone in Mobile County, your severe threat is done. Not for the entire day, but it's done for the next several hours. You will likely not have any severe weather threats for probably 3 to 4 hours. So that's great. So if you're in Mobile County and you don't have to wake up for 2 or 3 hours, you can go back to sleep. Baldwin County, you need to stay alert and on guard as this squall line is working its way to the east. Everyone who gets underneath that line of rain and lightning is going to be dealing with straight line winds in excess of 80 miles per hour. Only a sliver of Baldwin County has seen a tornado threat. Daphne, you were one of those spots just a few short minutes ago, but now that that tornado couplet has moved over Bell Forest, it's slowly starting to weaken. And we've seen that a lot. A lot of these circulations have looked strong, then they've weakened, which means that, I mean, they come in, they do damage, and then in the blink of an eye, they're gone. But the straight line wind threat has been long lasting, and it looks like it's going to be lasting a little while longer over the next several minutes as we continue to follow this particular band of storms. Weather Service said they want to wait a few more sweep scans before deciding whether or not to cancel the tornado warning that's in Baldwin County. But remember, the severe thunderstorm warning will not be canceled. That will still be active until 4:15. Now, for all of these alerts, you can download the Fox 10 weather app and get that on your device by scanning the QR code that's on the bottom of your screen. You can see the wind starting to calm down in Daphne now that squall line is pushing past that section of the eastern shore. But for a while, when we first pulled that up, oh boy, I mean, it was looking pretty violent. Weather Service said they're going to stick with the tornado warning for now. They're not going to cancel it just because the circulation, even though it's weaker, still strong enough to keep it active. So that means we're going to continue our coverage. The warning is in play till 4:15, so that means it'll go for at least the next 20 minutes unless the Weather Service does decide to drop it. So the squall line runs from Fort Morgan to Barnwell, Pelican Point, Fairhope, Daphne, Malbus, Spanish Fort, Stapleton, Bay Minette, Rabun, all the way up to Mineola, Blacksher, and continuing all the way up to Purdue Hill, Gosport, Wainwright, Franklin. So this is a big squall line, but up near US 84, it is weaker. That's why if you live up, for example, in Uri or Jackson or in Grove Hill, you haven't seen any tornado warnings go off because that section of the line is weaker than it has been near I-10. That part has been much more dangerous. That part has produced straight line winds, a lot of lightning, and so far, the tornado threat. So as we pull back and look at the polygon, that shape right here, that's the possible tornado that's located right near Malbus. So between Malbus and Loxley would be your tornado. That's going to keep moving northeast at 55 miles per hour. It's weaker than it was when it first popped up over Daphne. When that warning first popped up over Daphne, it was, and you can see they just reshaped the polygon box. The warning just got reshaped, so that means Daphne, you are out of it. Montrose is out of it. Malbus is out of it. But Loxley, you're still under the gun. Rosenton, Interstate 10 at State Highway 59. That's exit 44. That's the Gulf Shores exit. You're still under the gun. Exit 49, the Baldwin Beach Express, you're still under it. Parts of Gateswood, parts of Alabama Highway 112 are still showing up in parts of this warning. So this will continue until 4:15, and we'll pull back up the velocity display, and you can see that right here where I'm going to circulate, right there in Loxley, that is the possible tornado signature. So right over Loxley at exit 44 is where the possible tornado is located, and that's going to be continuing to veer north and east at roughly 55 miles per hour. So it's moving very fast, and even though it's weaker than it was when it was over Daphne, still strong enough that the Weather Service wants to hold on to this tornado warning for now. So what you can do if you live in these sections of Baldwin County is just make sure you're staying in your safe place. I know, sleep getting interrupted is never fun, but you want to make sure you are staying alert and aware of all of this in real time as we continue to track these storms. As far as when the storms are going to exit, we'll pull back up the Futurecast. If you haven't gotten a chance to see that this morning, you'll get a good illustration that this is only the first of 2 rounds that's coming through. So the first round's done by 6 a.m. 6 a.m., everyone goes quiet. But then look what happens at 8 o'clock this morning. 8 o'clock, the next round starts to flare up and track to the south and east. So by 10, 11, look at noon. At noon, you can see the severe storms in round 2 will be east of Interstate 65. And then by 2 in the afternoon, you'll see that those move offshore and everyone ends up going dry and the severe threat is going to be completely over with. So let's go back to the main line of storms that's pushing from the west to the east. You can see we still have the active tornado warning. You can see this main squall line is already pushed east of Mobile, which means everyone behind that line, the severe threat is over for now. But then we have to wait for severe threat number 2 that pushes in starting at about 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning and lasts till shortly after midday. So if you're in Mobile County and you don't have to wake up till 6 a.m., you can go back to sleep for now. So that's the good news. Washington County or Mississippi counties, you can all go back to sleep for the time being. The only ones that need to stay awake and alert are on the Florida Panhandle and in eastern Baldwin County. Eastern Shore, the threat is slowly starting to back off for you, because you can see the tornado warning threat is now shifting toward Loxley and Gateswood and into parts of Escambia County, Florida, around Bratt, Pineville, west of Molino, west of McDavid, west of Century, as that line works its way to the north and east at 50 miles per hour. So needless to say, this is going to be a very active weather day on the Gulf Coast. Here's a bigger picture. And notice the counterclockwise circulation right around Wichita and parts of Kansas City and St. Louis. That is the upper low we were following yesterday that was over the Rockies, okay? That upper low is what is steering the storms in our general direction, pushing them from west to east. And that's the reason why we have such an active threat going on this morning. Remember, our temperatures have been way above average for the last several days. We've seen highs flirting with 90 the last 3 afternoons. So because of that, we have an unstable environment that when these storms interact with that, it makes the threat enhanced. It's almost like pouring gasoline on a fire. It accelerates it. So you see everything from lightning, heavy rain, gusty winds, and unfortunately, a tornado threat. And the Weather Service said they're going to stick with it for the next 15 minutes until the warning expires. So we're going to stay with it as well. But at least we know the line is weakening, and that is a good thing. So let's go back to the velocity display. And I'm going to back this up. And you can see right here, this was 3:44 in the morning, and that was the tornado threat when it appeared right over Daphne. That was your possible tornado. And then as we move forward in time, notice as it approached Belforce, you started seeing that circulation begin to weaken and get weaker and weaker. It's still enough to keep the warning going over Loxley, but it's not as intense as it was. But if there is a tornado on the ground, it would be right there between exits 44 and 49 on Interstate 10. So that's between the Gulf Shores exit and between the Baldwin Beach Express. Weather Service said that the threat is broadening out and transitioning to more of a straight line wind hazard, which means that it would not be rotating wind, it would be straight line wind. So I don't think a tornado is on the ground any longer, but if one is there, it's right there between exit 44, which is here, and exit 49, which is here, because that's the Baldwin Beach Express. That's where Buc-ee's is located. That's where you got all the out-of-town travelers. And the tornado would be right here, right around the I-10 corridor at probably mile marker 46, 47. It would be right there in this general range. But the couplet is broader. It's not as tight as it was over Daphne, which is the main reason it's unlikely that there's a tornado on the ground. But you do have significant wind that's all pushing in one direction around this section of Interstate 10. And believe me, that is not something you want to try to drive through. This has been just a really nasty morning ever since 2:30 when the first warning started firing off. And thankfully, the wind threat across Mobile and the Eastern Shore is starting to back off. And you see, we just got a new sweep scan, and that potential tornado, or at least the couplet, is now shifting more to the east toward the Baldwin Beach Express, right there north of Rossington. It's hard to make out the green color, which is an indicator of where a tornado would be on the ground. So those are all pieces of good news, but I want to go back to the main line again because I want you to just see that the straight line wind threat covers so many people. It runs from just south of Atmore all the way to Pineville, everywhere basically on the radar where you're seeing red, where you're seeing the heavy rain, is where we're seeing wind speeds in excess of 70, 80 miles an hour. So that's running from about Atmore to Pineville to east of Stapleton to east of Loxley, right over Robertsdale, Summerdale, Barnwell, and pushing over into Bon Secour and Gulf Shores. So the Weather Service has said they are canceling the tornado warning. So the tornado warning is canceled for Baldwin County, but the severe thunderstorm warning is going to remain up for the next 14 minutes. That will still be in play until 4:15. And what we will do is, for the time being, we will get ready to send you back to programming, but we will be coming back on the air in less than 30 minutes. We're going to be back on the air starting at 4:30, because not only are we going to talk about these storms that have moved through just now, we're going to talk about the storm cell, and I'm going to back up the clock again to about 3 a.m. to this storm cell. Here was where the main line was at 244, and then look at that one storm cell that formed ahead of it in downtown Mobile. That one has caused potential damage at Broad and Virginia Street, multiple trees down, and reports of significant damage to a Dollar General store. And we're going to be getting a full report on that starting at 4:30. So in less than 30 minutes, we'll be back on the air for the Fox 10 Morning News. We appreciate you watching this severe weather coverage. If any new warnings go off, we'll come back on the air. But we will be back in less than 30 minutes with a full report on the storms we've seen so far this morning and on the potential damage that hit downtown Mobile. So for now, I'm meteorologist Michael White. We'll send you back to programming. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Stay safe and make sure you stay weather aware.